Ever go out to Tokyo and then come across these things?
Mario Kart! Hey!
Whoa!
These are go-karts and they are incredibly popular for a lot of tourists coming into the country. But a lot of people don't know this. A lot of locals here hate it. Not only that they are a nuisance to a lot of everyday drivers in Tokyo, they also got into a lot of trouble earlier this year by, well, getting into a car crash. With a lot of negative news coming out with these go-kart companies, you can see why a lot of locals here are disliking them even more than ever. And you might be thinking to yourself, what exactly went wrong? Let's do some explaining. When I mean let's, I mean my assistant, Goomba. Everyone say hi to Goomba. He'll be here as support in the background, just goonin'. So while making this video, I did some research about how these go-kart companies operate. Most of these go-kart companies are actually quite new because, well, it's a lucrative business. All these companies charge around maybe $100 to $150 an hour per person. So you can see why a lot of companies are starting to pop out left and right. These companies cover different parts of Tokyo. Some do Shibuya and Shinjuku, others do Asakusa. And honestly, with how insane these price tags are for these go-kart rides, I would definitely just do the rickshaw rides where hot Asian men pull me around in Tokyo. I guess my opinion on whether it's expensive or not doesn't really matter because I get paid in Japanese yen and life kind of sucks right now. Please subscribe, please subscribe, please. But once you decide which company you want to sign up for and then choose what area you want to drive in, you are then given the option of dressing up as your favorite character. They would have characters from the Minions or Tanjiro from Demon Slayer and Pokemon. That's a little weird because they got sued by Nintendo a few years ago. So it's plain obvious on how these companies even got popular to begin with because Japan, go-karts equals Mario Kart. I don't think there's a single person who don't think about Mario Kart when seeing these go-karts drive down the streets of Tokyo. And hey, if you don't believe me, watch this Mr. Beast video.
Now we're gonna drive Mario Karts on the street. We rented private Mario Karts where we literally get to drive on the streets of Japan.
People are just staring at us.
One of these companies flew a little bit too close to the sun because in the year 2017, Nintendo filed a lawsuit on street carts, formerly known as Marika. I honestly cannot believe the original name of street carts was Marika. You're pretty much asking for it at this point.
There are few places in the world that embrace pop culture and subculture quite like Japan. And here in Tokyo, you can drive right into that culture and explore the city, not by foot, by bus, but by Maricar.
To be fair, Nintendo wasn't as litigious as they are now. They pretty much just sue anyone for just mentioning a Nintendo IP, it seems. But for this instance, I feel like it was quite deserved. Not only that their name resembled Mario Kart, they were also driving around as Mario characters, which is a Nintendo IP. Every single time I go to Tokyo, I come across these go-karters because, well, they are impossible to avoid. I often see these people wearing Pokemon costumes, which is obviously a Nintendo IP. Sure, there might not be a Pokemon cart at the moment, but why would you entertain that? Just don't use Pokemon characters. Street carts have become so traumatized by this lawsuit that they have it all over their website saying that it is not affiliated with Nintendo or Mario Kart in any way. But the damage has already been done because a lot of these companies are now popping out of nowhere because it is such a lucrative business. If you can sell a 1-hour go-kart ride in Tokyo for $100 to $150, well, that's jackpot. This lawsuit against Marika from Nintendo was just the beginning of negative press towards these companies. In fact, earlier this year in April, one of these go-kart drivers actually crashed into a taxi. And you might be thinking to yourself, whoa, Need for Speed, cars flipping in the air. It actually wasn't. Some guy just ran into a parked taxi. But it began a chain reaction of negative press from that point on. This car crash isn't the only accident to occur this year from these go-karts, but it was the most significant one because police got involved. According to their investigations, they found out that this particular go-kart company was giving permission to people to drive in Japan without the right permit. So you might be wondering, how could they even mess this up? Well, that's because Japan is quite unique in this way. Most countries, especially in Europe, they base their international driver's permit on the 1968 version of the Geneva Convention, while Japan uses the one from 1949. The biggest difference between the old and the new Geneva Convention is that there are just less countries that are able to use their permit in Japan. And coming from a guy who went through the whole process of getting a driver's license in Japan, it's very expensive and very strict. A lot of countries outside of Japan pretty much hands you the driver's license after you hit a certain age, but here you would have to pay a lot of money to even get it, and sometimes it's a lot more expensive than a used car. It also took me 6 months to even get through all the courses, and even then I had to pay an extra. So you can see why Japan wants to use the older version of the Geneva Convention, because it limits the amount of people who can be on the roads in Japan, and I guess it's just to keep things safe. It's a little annoying, but that's just how it is. Yeah, I get it. It's a little bit annoying to explain, but all this information is already on all of these go-kart companies' websites. It clearly states that it's using the older version of Geneva Convention, and here are the list of countries that cannot drive in Japan, whether they have the international driver's permit or not. You know what? I hope this video convinces Nintendo to put Goomba in Mario Kart. I think he deserves it, even though he doesn't have arms.
Mario Kart 8!
So you can pretty much see why a lot of Japanese people don't like these companies, because not only that they are annoying and in the way of everything, they are also breaking the law. And even though not all of these companies are involved in this case, the reputation is already tarnished at the fact that, well, a lot of people are just fed up with tourists coming into the country and treating it like their own playground. So if you didn't know, a lot of news outlets in Japan have been posting a lot of anti-tourist and anti-foreigner sentiment on pretty much a daily basis. Trust me, I know this because one of my videos was actually on national news, if you want to check that video out. In that video, I was actually just drinking a strong zero out of a Family Mart chicken bag, which is crazy, but that's just the state of how Japan media is right now, and is getting quite annoying. You can see why there's a lot of hatred towards these go-kart companies, and they are also breaking the law, which is a huge reputation killer in Japan. And in some rare cases, this reputation can be the end of a company. I'm looking at you, Big Motors. So the video is pretty much done at this point. I just wanted to say that I'm not trying to spread hate towards these companies or anything. I'm just clearly stating the facts. But hey, maybe some of you guys have been on these go-kart experiences, and I would love to know your opinion on it, whether it was good or bad. Me personally, I don't think I would spend $100 to be on a go-kart, and honestly, whenever I do come across people on these go-karts, they don't really look too excited to begin with, but that's just me. I also want to say thank you for those who subscribe to the channel. I have officially hit YouTube partner, and I can't wait to make more videos for you guys. So thank you guys so much, and stick around for more content.